What's it going to mean for Google, and who else is in the crosshairs at this point? And just answer one at a time.
Yeah, good morning. It's very vague. It's unclear exactly what they want to go after, but this is the number one issue facing the internet sector, and institutional investors continue to highlight this as a risk. So this is somewhat in the stock, but clearly it'll be down on the news. Again, we think this is more of a speed bump, not a roadblock. It's another short-term setback for Google's multiple after they missed the first quarter earnings, which makes the second quarter even more important that they put up a very good, clean quarter. So we'll continue to monitor this. I think historically these have been, again, more speed bumps, not roadblocks. We lived through this through Microsoft back in the day. We think we'll live through the same thing, but this isn't going to go away. This is a rolling series of regulatory waves, if you will, and we think this will also hit the other players, Facebook, among many of the others that we cover.
Well, that's what I mean. Obviously, Facebook is what you think about, but it's totally different issues with the two companies. Is it not, or is it more similar than I might see in terms of privacy?
Yeah, I think they have similar in different issues. There's a combination of similarities, but they're definitely different issues. Again, I mean, it's vague right now exactly what they want to go after. I think we'll get more details until we get a clear line of sight. I think the multiples can continue to be impaired. And again, this is really, I think the bigger issue for many investors is just the weakness that we saw in their fundamental business in the first quarter. So that seems to have a bigger weight than the regulatory overhang right now. So that's really what I think most of our clients are queuing in on.
I mean, if you listen to some of the rhetoric coming from some of the candidates that are running from the left here, Brent, it's almost as if you have a really great business that resembles in any way, shape, or form a monopoly, because your product is so necessary and so, sort of a part of our lives. And you can name any of these big companies, and you can
monopoly, a duopoly,
a monopoly, duopoly, whatever you want to call it. And just by definition, some people on the left think they should be broken up, whether they should or not. I mean, is everybody that's really good at what they do, or could they all be in the crosshairs, Brent?
I think the big platform leaders will be. And again, we've seen this. I've covered tech for 20 years. We lived through this with Steve Ballmer at Microsoft when they wanted to separate, Office and break up what they were doing with bundling. And again, I look back at that as the one commonality in tech is these big platforms live for longer than you think. They thrive. They snap back quicker because, to your point, the relevance of our life, how we get up and get to work. We use Google Maps. How do we find what's going on in our life? We use Google. I mean, there's so many services. And so I think ultimately, as long as it's done in a fair, safe way for consumers, the regulators should stay, clear of some of these other issues. So I think, again, it's really an overhang for the whole industry. I think this is why in the rest of tech, you've seen software, semiconductors, you've seen pretty material outperformance in those sectors and underperformance in internet recently because of these concerns. But yeah, I think the big platforms, especially the names that are more consumer-facing, are really facing, an increasing level of scrutiny. And it doesn't feel like it's just our government. It's governments throughout the world. So this is, again, I think, going to be a series of rolling waves regulatory that we're going to see going forward.
This last question, can we still assume that it's a kind of a lighter touch in the United States than you'd see from the EU or maybe other parts of the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think the regulators have to be careful, right? I mean, many of the jobs that are being created in the U.S., you look at Google's footprint and how they're building out, they want to be careful because you don't want to stunt innovation. I'm sitting in Israel right now, and you look at the level of innovation that's coming out of Tel Aviv. It's incredible. They do not want these jobs going to other countries. So they have to be somewhat careful from that perspective.